unexpected. This is where it's at. From NBA insights to the latest chit chat. Grab your popcorn, sit tight, we're ready to roll. In the heart of Sacktown, we're feeding your soul. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star. With the NFL, Adams in the ring. Rhino's got the wisdom, hear the praises we sing. Court in session, it's a royal affair. With the fans all around, feel the passion in the air. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star.
Smart, very talented, very clever,
that?
very funny, very well read, very engaging, very well liked. You have a great work ethic. Wow. I don't need to worry about you, dude.
You don't need to worry about me or anybody up in here. What's going on? Happy Monday. Hope the weekend was well. Hope you stayed out of the sun or at least did it the right way. Wear some sunscreen, get in the pool, get some shade. You know what I mean? Couple beverages, soda water, adult beverage, if that's your thing. A lot going on. We've got Grant, 8 o'clock tonight. As always, it is a Air Your Grievances Monday. We got to air our grievances. Do you have any? We will get to some. I've got a couple from the weekend.
The airing of
How about
grievances.
you guys?
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
We already have somebody on line one. Listener, you're on the air with the King's Court. What's your grievance?
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
Okay. It's Tomas again. Kings need a point guard. The NBA Finals are set, by the way. We'll talk about them in a little bit and why I think the NBA was not prepared for this finals, this scenario. I think it is an awesome thing, and I think it's going to be a great finals altogether. In fact, you look at the odds for the finals, the Thunder are heavy favorites. I mean, amongst some of the heavier favorites that we've seen, they are minus 700 to win the finals this year. Give you some perspective. 2001. Yeah, I know that year sucked, y'all. Lakers, they were minus 2,000 to beat the 76ers. They won in 5 games. Warriors, Cavs, 2018, minus 1075. Warriors swept. So the last minus 700 is TBD. We had the Lakers in the Nets in 2002. That was the one that we're talking about. That was a minus 750. So we'll get into the finals today. A lot to go over. But since we are talking about the finals, that means that New York fan, and yes, Grant's back in it. Make sure you join him. Open forum. He's been bringing it. Did I hear something about Thailand on his last show? That's news. Interesting. But New York fan, you got to pack it in for the summer. No, that you know what that means for us? No more KD.
I got one question. Yo, KD.
Or will we get, yo, KD, come to New York? In fact, people are going crazy on social because Giannis is in Manhattan. Come on. And you know what? Knicks fan is going to do what Knicks fan's going to do.
New York Knicks.
We're still going to have to hear this. You're hearing it more
Tell me
than ever.
something, KD. Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Right now, talking about Coach Thibodeau, talking about one of the guy that, and Patrick, help me out. I thought Patrick really handled the loss well. Took it level-headed. Some Knicks fans have not, but that's to be expected. And yo, that's your best year since 1999. Celebrate, Knicks fans. But Pascal Siakam, how about him getting named the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals? It was a really funny moment if you did not watch the game and watch the post game. I mean, who didn't watch the post game? It was the sign off for Inside the NBA on TNT. But you got to check out the video. Pascal, though, MVP of the series.
It goes to the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. And that MVP is Pascal Siakam.
Not pictured there is Tyrese Halliburton getting ready to take the step forward. He would have been called for a false start if that was a football game, towards the podium, towards the table to get the MVP trophy. No, Tyrese. Yeah, you had a great couple of games, but you weren't consistent every single game. And that's why I think it's going to be interesting when when the Pacers and the Thunder get together, because I think you might see a little bit of a similar formula, but can the Pacers play physical? That's the big question. We've got some Kings news, and unfortunately some news that I did not like. Haunted Horse, quit poaching our coaches. I'm tired of it. We'll get to it in a minute. First, I want to get to you. How was the weekend? Let me know what's up. Tristan, first in. Airing of grievances Monday. Court is in session. Whoa, what a lit intro. So you liked it. We're going to be trying some new stuff out. If you want to send me a submission, look, it's not like I'm sitting here writing lyrics out, tuning up the bass, checking my drum set. It's called AI. Generates the songs for you. But if you got a better idea, let me know what you think, or send me something better. I'm down with that too. But airing of the grievances, I've got a few from over the weekend. If you have a grievance, get in here. I would love to hear it. The airing of the grievances has become more of a topical
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people.
We kind of
Now,
mix
you're
some
gonna hear about it.
stories in with it. And one thing that I have not done in a while that I'm going to do today, if you were with us last year in the off season, I would pose maybe a couple times a week a question of the day. I have a question of the day today, and I'll give you my answer towards the end of the show, but I do want to see what you guys will answer. I think we'll get a lot of interaction on this question. Flores, I got a lot of problems with you people. Indeed. Light the beam. Light the beam? You haven't been lit in a while. I heard Naz Reid opting out. Will the Kings go after him? Big guy that can spread the floor. Here's what I will tell you. Jerry Reynolds would pick him up at the airport tomorrow. Jerry has wanted Naz Reid forever. And you could arguably say that was probably when you look at the Randall trade, and did New York win the trade? Did Minnesota win the trade? They can keep debating that because they both made conference finals. But Jerry said 3 seasons ago in the offseason, Naz Reid, you got to get Naz Reid. And this was right after the Timberwolves had already made the deal to get Rudy Gobert. He thinks that, and I agree with him, signing Naz Reid to the contract they did that summer, I think it was right in the realm of like $53 million for a couple of years with the player option. That to me has been one of the biggest things that put Minnesota in the position that they've been in, besides obviously Anthony Edwards, but being able to play in the playoffs with multiple bigs. And I know Rudy Gobert's production's gone down as the years have also piled up, but Naz arguably made the team better when Cat was out, when Cat was still there. So can the Kings go after him? Sure. They can go after anybody if they're a free agent. However, do they have the money to go after him? I don't think so. Andrew, what's up? Patrick's gone fishing. Yep. So have the TNT guys. I want to listen to a little bit of that with you. That was an emotional thing for me. That was surreal watching them. And I know they're going to be back, but I thought TNT did an incredible job of encompassing the entire team. Now, you had to have been paying attention throughout the series because as the series got closer and closer to a conclusion, they were showing more of the different team members, whether it was cameramen, whether it was producers. And I thought it was cool that they announced that a lot of them are going to be going with to ESPN. In fact, nothing's going to change. They're going to broadcast from Atlanta still. You're going to have a lot of the same infrastructure. It's just getting shot to a different network. So, but they did an excellent job with the sign off. We're going to play it here. We're definitely going to play it. However, there is a little cussing. There is a bad word there. Shaq. You know, like there's probably some inside bet there. Like you'll never get an F-bomb off on this show. You never will, Shaq. Barkley throwing him odds on that because, you know, Chuck likes to get a little action every now and again. He threw the F word out there. And also that docu-series, that one episode special showing behind the scenes, I thought that was a really cool thing. To me, 100% Ernie Johnson. And if you don't know Ernie's story about his late son and everything that Ernie's dealt with from that to cancer, Ernie Johnson is the captain of that team. And I know he is literally the captain when it comes to the broadcast. He's the quarterback, but he is the captain of that team. Go watch that one episode documentary and look how important and respected he is amongst that team and that crew and those guys as well. There is a story where when Shaq joined, they're like, don't mess with Ernie's cards. Don't do it. He's got a system. He has got a routine. Those cards are important to him. You know, he's got a couple stats, his EJs, Nitos, Stat in the Night. Your grievance can be my singing, by the way, if you'd like to do that. In fact, I'll do it for you. Here you go.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you
Rhino
people.
singing.
Now you're going to hear about it.
Rhino singing. Anyways, Shaq ripped up Ernie's cards. Ernie lost it. In fact, I don't think Ernie kicked him a single question that show. So anyways, I think it was awesome. I think it's awesome. NBA Finals. One team is going to be a first-time champion. Yes, indeed. What's up, Matthew? How you doing today? I told you we've got some Kings news as well. Where do you want to start? Do you want the good? Well, okay. The good, the bad, or the ugly? Where should we start with the Kings news? I can give you all three. We also have the latest installment of Vivek Ranadive's World. Do you guys remember the cartoon Bobby's World? Don't you know? We need to get some imaging similar to that. Vivek riding around on a three-wheeler, cartoon style. Vivek's World. It's crazy. Grievances. They can be either. They can be whatever you want. Personal, as long as they're not too personal. How do I feel about Mike Miller? He was a great shooter, but I think he's a little old. Are you talking about Mike Miller as a player still? Or are you talking about Tristan? You know the Mike Miller that is coming to the Kings is not that Mike Miller. And to be honest with you, when I heard that, I thought the same thing at first. I'm like, oh, I'm down. I know he's active with AAU. I know he's been around some teams. I know he likes to coach. But yeah, not that one. We talked about it on Friday. We'll talk some more about it here in a little bit. Not to complain, but I'm snubbed and got notifications, but still have to catch up the channel for the stream. Really? Search up the channel for the stream. Interesting. Interesting. I knew it, dude. I knew it, brother. I did the same
Tristan,
thing.
pay attention. Pay attention.
Yeah, so I'm
Come on,
not going to get
Tristan.
too mad at you.
Come on.
Not going to get too mad at you. Matthew, look, we're trying to, we've had some issues with the program, which I've talked about numerous times over the last couple of weeks. You've seen where we're starting shows at 3:01, or you might have two shows scheduled at the same time. It's probably on their end, not on your end. hit me up via email and we'll see if there's anything we can do to get that fixed for you. Email rhinoinsacktown@gmail.com. I know Grant stores that somewhere around here. There we go. rhinoinsacktown@gmail.com. Email me, Matt, and we'll see if there's anything from our end that we can do. All right, if you're not going to tell me the good, the bad, or the ugly, then I'm just going to choose. Mike Miller just had a cool podcast story about the fight in the tunnel. There you go. Sweet. Okay, I'm going to start with the good. You want a piece of Stockton Kings championship memorabilia? You can get it now. Go to the Stockton Kings website. They're doing an auction. They're auctioning off some cool stuff. Proceeds go back into the organization, which also funds a lot of their community outreach. If you don't know this, the Stockton Kings, because of them being a G League team, because they do have day games occasionally, because of that, they do a lot with the community, whether it's a special day for the school kids to come. There's a ton of different nights. There's Mexican Heritage Night. They do a lot down there in Stockton. So proceeds go back into the organization, but know that it's not just going right back into Vivek's pocket. It is to fund community outreach and continue to make that continuing to make that product better. Yeah, 209 champs, man. That is, to me, still really, really cool. Mason Jones, Mike Ditka.
We won the game, but we made history. Mike Ditka, that's the biggest thing, man. That's the biggest thing. They call me Mike Ditka. Hey, hold on, let me get y'all reason. Hey, they call me Mike Ditka. Yes, sir. Because I push them hard every day. And some days they'll fight me back. Some days they'll be like, why you on me so hard? Because times like this. And now, I was on IC ass all year. He come through the last 2 games. I was on TT ass all year. He came through all year. I was on Dex ass all year. That nigga came through all year. And what are we on? We champs. Let's go home.
Let's go home. Only thing better than that is the Stockton. We got to get that one back on the board. Okay, so they've got signed jerseys. They've got game-worn jerseys. They have signed seat backs from the G League finals. They've got game-worn stuff, a lot of different things up there. So if you want a piece of the Stockton Kings action, go grab that. A lot of you are saying you want the bad now. All right, we'll give you the bad. The Kings, I say it's bad because they're working out guys that are projected to be second-round picks. So there you go. That is who the Kings were working out today. Kind of gives you an idea. It really actually doesn't give you a huge idea of where they're looking to go. Shooting guard, power forward, and a center. Those are reported by James Ham. So those are the workouts today. And the ugly. Quentin Crawford, G League Coach of the Year, G League Champion Coach of the Stockton Kings. He is headed to Portland, reportedly, to join Chauncey Billups' staff. Good move, Q. I mean, Q, I want you. I love you and Gabriel Harris together down there, but I have no idea what's going on under Scott Perry now. Remember, Scott Perry was going to meet with everyone in the building. It was going to take 3-4 weeks. And in a week, he met with everybody in the building, including the cooks, and held a coaching thought. Not a search, a thought. So, look, this is the second year, and I get the G League is about promotion, right? So, love to Coach Q for moving on in his career, right? I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him too. But this is the second year in a row that the Kings have lost. And by the way, the Kings last year, Lindsey Harding, G League Coach of the Year. This year, Quentin Crawford, G League Champion Coach of the Year. Q's gone. I really liked Q's control over that team. The back and forth, and when I say control, he knew how to manage personalities. any of you that went with me to the playoffs and sat by the bench, you heard that. You saw that back and forth between the players. And he also trusted his assistants a lot. It was a championship unit. That's what they were. But unfortunately, Haunted Horse has poached Coach Q, reportedly moving on to Portland. And I'll tell you what, moving to Portland right now does not sound bad if you are a coach. If the NBA is the stock market, I'm buying stock in Portland. Now, I'm not saying it's the next Apple, the next Tesla. It's not anything like that, but I'm probably going to put that in my back pocket and let it sit for a couple of years, because the West is stacked at the top, but Portland's rebuild really to this point has gone just about as good as you could ask it to go. We'll have to get Chad in Portland on again to talk about where Portland's at, because it kind of stinks that the West recalibrated so much at the trade deadline. And now you've got a monster in Oklahoma City at the top. It's 6th pick this year in the draft, by the way. 6th pick. So that's the good, bad, and the ugly of the Kings. And sorry, you're not getting off the hook. If I can't get off the hook, you are not getting off the hook. You remember I told you Vivek Ranadive is just running around and it is all beautiful fields of flowers and jumping bunnies. Couldn't be better, right? Well, here's your latest installment of Vivek's world that he's posting on Instagram.
This is one of my other favorite spots in America, Central Park, right here in New York City, with the Manhattan skyline in the back. And I would come here early in the morning, go for a long run, and then go off and sell software. This is one.
Okay, Vivek, I have an idea. Move to New York, go run by that park every morning, and go sell software and let the basketball people do basketball things. There was somebody on the national media. It was Bobby Marks. It was Bobby Marks. He had a legitimate conversation with somebody else in an NBA front office, somebody that was familiar with the Kings situation. And he straight up asked them, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but the question was, if you asked Vivek Ranadive to go away for 2 years with the guarantee that when he comes back in the 2 years, the team is significantly better, he would turn it down. That's what Bobby Marks said, or his source said. Tell us more, Vivek.
This is one of my other favorite spots in America, Central Park, right here in New York City, with the Manhattan skyline in the back. And I would come here early in the morning, go for a long run, and then go off and sell software. This is one.
I think that plan sounds perfect right about now. Anyways, back to this weekend. It was a nostalgic moment for me seeing TNT sign off of basketball. Probably not the end of TNT Sports, but the basketball is what funded that sports program, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they've had NASCAR. Yes, they have NHL. But when you look at the money that Chuck was making, you look at the relationship with that network, and you got to believe that because they were counter-suing. They wanted to hold this thing up in court. They felt like that the NBA did not fulfill their duties within the contract during negotiations for the next TV rights deal. So you feel like this is kind of a middle ground where this show's going to continue. It's going to be somewhere else, but you don't know if it's going to be the same. I know the players are going to be the same. Crew's going to be the same, but the bosses are not the same. So getting to watch them sign off on an emotional night. And by the way, I thought it was so great that it happened in Indiana, where it's a smaller market. You've got this perfect plaza setup. I've never been to Indy in their arena, but it looks really cool in the concourse, as you can see behind them. And the fans stayed. They just backed them up. The entire show was not a long show, but it was definitely a special show. I want to play some audio from their sign-offs Some of them a little bit long-winded. Definitely EJ's hit me the most. I thought Chuck was good too.
And let's just go down the line here. I know everybody's got thoughts about the end of this chapter, and Shaq, start with you.
I'm the youngest here. It's been a great run. It's been an honor. Chuck, I love you like the older brother that I never had. And if you say something, I will whoop your ass one last time on this show right now. Ernie, you came to my house in 1989, 1991. Big honor. It's an honor for me to be sitting up here with you. Kenny, the way y'all embarrassed us in 94, 95, you and Akeem, you taught me what it was to be a champion. And we're a family. I'm glad we're sticking together. And like I said, even though the name changes, the engine is still the same. And to that new network we coming to, we're not coming to F around. And since it's the live show, I'm going to say it. We're not coming to F around. We kicking ass, we taking names, and we taking over. Okay? I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys, but hey, all right? Let me see that #1 time for the #1 show ever on TV. And we come over to take over that next network, too.
Kenny? It's a tough act to follow. Go ahead.
Tough act to follow, but it's bittersweet, obviously, you know, not just because us four are moving, but, you know, it's been a history that has been set by all of the people that have laid the groundwork behind the scenes, before the scenes.
I didn't think there was a ton from Kenny. So let's get to the middle of Charles.
And I want to thank TNT, and even though we'll never say TNT Sports again, I want to thank TNT for giving me a magnificent life.
Well, I'll try to keep this brief.
Take your time.
Several years ago, I wrote a book called Unscripted, and I asked people to embrace the unscripted, not fear the unscripted. If I had written the script, the NBA and TNT would be together forever. It's not going to happen. But while I was disappointed and I was sad, I was not bitter. We know how business works. Gratitude is the operative word for me. Grateful that, since 1989, I've been with this company. No matter what you call the company, I'll always be Turner. And I'm grateful that I work with you guys. I'm grateful for all of the relationships we've built professionally and personally through the years. You just don't realize that until you see people here on the road and say, hey, this is probably going to be it. And you think back to all the good times you had. So I'm grateful for that, and also grateful that we have members of our crew who are going to go work at NBC or work at Amazon. And you know how they got those jobs? Because their resume says NBA on TNT. So thank you. We have been honored to do this.
Is there a bigger boss line than that? You know how they got that job? Their resume says NBA on TNT. Yeah, if you're doing that job at NBC, you're done. 2-week notice. Throw it in. Beat them to the punch. No, actually get fired. Get the severance. No, well, get laid off. There you go. Get your golden watch. Time to go. NBC Sports, they're going to have a high bar to live up to, because you've already got, like, for me, thinking back to the NBA on NBC, it was like the thing. It's like goes hand in hand with NBA Jam, like that entire time period, Michael Jordan into the Kings, Lakers. Man, there's a lot of nostalgia there. So I hope they're able to pull it off to a degree. Do I think Stockton goes back to back? I do not. I do think that Stockton will continue, though, to be in the top 4 in the G League. No doubt about it. Dennis posted some odds in the chat. I am curious, Dennis, where did you get these? Did Bovada release some more odds? They were pretty limited the last time we went over them on the show. Odds on the next star to land in Toronto: Domas plus 500, Giannis plus 600, Levine plus 600. Oh my gosh. Please. Drew's not going there. Jamal Murray, doubt it. Marketing, no way. By the way, Danny Ainge worked it out with the C's to get his son to come to Utah to work for the franchise. So go figure. That rolling in. Yeah, interesting. I mean, odds are odds, right? It's so early on in the process. It is. Chris, Kings are never going to win as long as Vivek is the owner. He is the worst sports owner, and his basketball IQ is... Got it. For those listening on the podcast version, 2 poop emojis. Chris is completely off. Should be 3. Anyways, look, I don't care if his basketball IQ is awful. Those 2 things don't have to be mutually exclusive. They don't. You can have a bad basketball IQ and let the basketball guys do things. That's the thing. I think Vivek just likes to... I've never... the length of time that I have spent with Vivek Ranadive is a cup of coffee quick. I mean, it was maybe 30 seconds. Maybe 30 seconds. So this is me observing him from afar. He likes to be the center of everything. Like, he wants to be in on everything. And whether that's because he wants to be heard, whether that is because he wants to pick up the phone and play a telephone with other people in the NBA, I don't know how you are going to change a personality, especially a personality that, and I think that's the frustrating thing. The guy knows how to run a business. He built an incredible business, enough of one to buy the team and save the team here in Sacramento. How many times do you think Vivek put his staff through strength finders? Raise your hand if you've done strength finders like 3 times during whatever career path you guys are all in, and gals. So you got to know that balance. It's got to be, and I said this before, you either have to have the right personality that knows how to play the game with Vivek enough to where they can get things done and still make him feel like he is part of the process. Or, look, I do think the way currently things are being ran, you're right. As we sit today, you are absolutely right. Unless the Kings end up getting the magic ball in the draft lottery, in a draft where there is a generational talent, and then there's really no way to screw it up, and there's the public pressure to make sure that you are building around that, be stupid not to. But here's what comes with that, and that's what worries me the most. Sacramento's not getting a lot of attention right now. In fact, most of the attention the Kings are getting is negative attention. So wait till this team, let's say you have the magic ball come up through the machine. You get that generational talent. You've got a GM or somebody in the building that plays the game better than Vivek. What happens when all the attention, a lot of the attention in the NBA is on Sacramento? Based on what we've seen up until this point, it seems like he is going to run towards it even more. So, yeah, Grant's talked about fans doing what they want. We're not organizing fans here. That's not our jobs. We're being objective, at times subjective. That's our job too, to give our opinions, unique, hopefully, stuff that's not recycled. But this last from, I guess I'll call it a cycle. This last cycle, we've called to a T on this channel. I'm sure you guys take in other Kings content. What other channel told you Doug Christie's going to be the next coach of the Kings? Like, we're not even saying like it's our opinions. We're telling you Doug Christie is going to be the next coach of the Kings. We've laid it out how it is. Grant talked about you're going to have a yes man come in as a GM that's going to accept a job that comes along with the head coach. And last week we talked about, based off the hirings that the Kings have made, you can almost see these like style changes. It's almost like a fantasy draft between Doug Christie and Scott Perry with the coaching staff. Doug's immediately going to players. He's going to guys, even players with coaching experience, like Bobby Jackson. And then Mike Woodson becomes the associate head coach out of nowhere. And I'm not saying Mike Woodson isn't a good selection. My worry about it is the ties are all there with the Scott Perry, with the Alvin Gentry, with the Joe Dumars, who's no longer with the Kings. Joe Dumars has to deal with that Zion situation now. And then Doug Christie names another guy. Okay, Bobby Jackson. That makes all the sense in the world. Mike Miller. Oh, he was with the Knicks. Go figure. You get what I'm saying? So we've called this to a T. And so we're, even knowing what we've shared with you guys, we're not going to tell you to mobilize, tell you what to do. It's not our jobs. We want our jobs. We want to keep covering this team. But it's in a very difficult spot right now. And the counter side to that is you might have somebody in Vivek's ear right now saying, hey, Vivek, my man, Vivek, boss. Can you tell me that story about the time you sold to Goldman Sachs? Yeah. Hey, boss, didn't you run around like Central Park and then boss, check this out. You know, you set the trend in the NBA this year. You were the first one to fire a coach that seemed like they were on pretty stable ground contract-wise. I mean, yeah, the team wasn't doing good, but not only were you the first coach or the first guy to fire a coach, you also hired your interim. Every other team, Taylor Jenkins and the Grizzlies, guess what? When they fired him, they ended up hiring the interim. What about the Nuggets and Michael Malone? You gave the Nuggets the balls to fire Michael Malone, and now they're rolling with David Adelman, and so on and so forth. And do you see how that's not so much of a far jump based off of what we are seeing? Scott Perry has got a heck of a job in front of him. Let's just put it that way. A heck of a job. Still want to talk a lot about the NBA in the finals. Here's the final schedule for you. My only beef, my only grievance with the NBA finals is how spread apart we are. Check this out. They don't play until Thursday, and then they get a 3-day break and play again Sunday. And then it tightens up. Then you go Wednesday to Friday for 3 and 4. Then you get another break Monday, Thursday, and then possibly a game 7 Sunday, June 22nd. What do you all see this series going? And I want to talk also about Adam Silver. I want to get into how this is kind of the perfect scenario for the NBA, but I don't think the NBA was prepared for it. I also want to talk about this narrative that's going around with so many fans and SGA and the Foul Merchant and Tyrese Halliburton being a heel and all this stuff. And people are complaining. Fans are complaining The same fans that were complaining about the NBA being way too heavy on the three-pointer. And now you got two guys that take it to the hoop and are playing the mid-range and playing the opposite of everybody else. And now they're foul merchants? Come on. So, and I know spotting Adam Silver there isn't exactly like finding Waldo in Where's Waldo. I get it. He sticks out there. So we're going to get into that as well. I'm going to give you my question of the day. In fact, I'll give you the question of the day right now as we go through some more of your chats. I have my grievances that we are going to get to as well. Here's the question of the day for you. So this weekend, my son and I were on our way to church, right? And for those that don't know, I talked about it on the channel. In fact, first time I was on Grant's podcast, we talked heavily about this because Grant's sister also has autism. My son at an early age was diagnosed with autism, and we never put that label on him whatsoever, but we sure as heck were doing everything that we could to get him every service we could. In fact, we were doing the things that the services provided, the occupational therapy, the speech therapy. And now he's at a point where he is no longer considered on the spectrum by his school district, but his mind is so brilliant. It just works different sometimes. And here was a classic example. So we're driving in the car to church, and my son looks at me and he's like, "Dad, the ocean's a big pot of soup." I'm like, "What? We don't have water around us. Like, the ocean's a big pot of soup. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, think about it. You got to put salt in the water if you're going to make soup. You got to have meat. You got fish in the ocean. You got to have vegetables. You've got seaweed. You just have to go down to the bottom where there's a hot geyser and heat it up." And the kid has me sitting here thinking, and I'm like, "Dude, you're kind of right. That's kind of brilliant." It's so basic, but brilliant. And so the question of the day for all of you is this: if you could switch places with somebody for one day, if you could trade minds with somebody for one day, who would it be? Mine would be my son. Hands down. Hands down. Who would yours be? Who would you change minds with just for one day? I know the easy answer. "Oh, it's going to be my wife. I want to know what my wife thinks about me." No, like seriously, let me know who you would want to change places with. All right, back to the chat. As we go, you guys are talking amongst yourself. OKC in 6, but want Pacers to win in 6. A lot of people have OKC in 5. Oh, Dennis, we have breaking news. I'm told the Pacers are chartering a plane for all full-time employees to attend the NBA Finals Game 1, Game 2. Cool. Classy. That's awesome. The Kings are a hot, soupy mess. Yes, they are. Let's see. Patrick, he's up in here. Overachieved. Pacers expose them. Hey, Patrick, I mean this with all seriousness. I'm not like just trying to poke the bear. I think De'Aaron Fox would be a pretty good fit in New York, Patrick. Disagree? You know that team better than anybody. I think he'd be a good fit to counterbalance Brunson. Let me know. We will announce the champions on July 4th, right? We'll announce finals MVP on Labor Day, right? This is our team. Oh, that's my bad. Yeah. Nobody will ever forget that. That was the highlight of Vivek's time here in Sacramento, right?
This is your team.
There is a gap because of the Tony Awards. The NBA won't compete. Okay, fair enough. OKC, NBC, KFC, Thunder in 5. Not bad. Not quite a haiku, but Tristan, I'm proud of you. You made things rhyme. Yeah! Good job, buddy. Giannis and the Toronto Raptors reportedly have mutual interest. That would be a weird landing spot for me. Could they even pull that? That would be interesting. He's an annoying billionaire. Yes. Patrick, off the clock. Got everything.
Acknowledge me.
But the Knicks aren't playing tonight. It's okay, dude. I got the Knicks fans for you. Are you already... Patrick, if you are having Knicks withdrawals, you just let me know. I've got the fans for you. We'll get them going, make you feel at home again. Here you go, Patrick. Right here.
New York Knicks run New York City!
Bing bong.
Tell me a little something, KD. Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Well, you have to be able to get access to Vivek first. I look, if you want to have a better conversation, like really, if you want to have that conversation, ask Grant that. Grant worked for Vivek. He is familiar with what Vivek needed at times. Ask Grant that. I know the answer to it because him and I have talked about it on a post-game show before, but ask that question. I'm still kind of thrown off by the plus 600 odds that Toronto would go after Zach LaVine. That's crazy. I'd get off Zach LaVine. If you could make the money work, I would get off Zach LaVine. That speeds up. If you get picks back, that puts you right back on track for a rebuild. It does. Let's see. Does anybody remember people saying that Vivek was going to build such a product that he was going to bring to? Yeah. Well, think about when the Golden One Center was built. And I'll give Vivek this. At least his thing was technology. At least his thing was freshness and local economy, DOCO. Those are all cool things. You could have been like Steve Ballmer and wanted 3,970 toilets in your building. I don't know what the number really is, but he has the most toilets ever in a basketball arena. So he was ahead of pace there. They did do the India outreach. They did broadcast a game in India, I want to say. Did the Kings go to India? I don't think they did, but there was a lot of collaboration between Vivek and trying to help the game globally. And if you're Adam Silver, then Vivek's completely on the same page with him because that's what he's looking at right now. He's not even thinking about domestic expansion. He wants to create a European NBA. So we should have had Blake Griffin, but instead got the 4th pick and selected Tyreke Evans. There you go. All right. All the Kings are looking at our post-draft players to invite, not 2nd-round picks. Peter, I actually, I had the time this weekend, and Liam and I, we came over to my parents' place, and we went swimming, we barbecued, and my mom's kind of asking me, because they watch the show when they can, the game day stuff, and she's like, so what's next? And I'm like, well, usually it's California Classic, but the Kings aren't doing the California Classic this year, and I had to explain the California Classic to her. But as we were having that conversation, Peter, I started to wonder if the Kings could fill 2 teams. I mean, you could, but 2 competitive teams, 2 teams that aren't going to be embarrassments. Because you're right, a lot of what they are looking at, and granted, you got to give the Kings credit here. This is where I give the front office when it comes to the scouts. This is where the Stockton system, Gabriel Harris, they have identified undrafted talent that's worked out pretty darn well, i.e. Keon Ellis. Isaac Jones, another one this year. Now, he's not a Keon Ellis, but you get my point. They've been ahead of schedule, so maybe they can, maybe they can't. Like, I just wonder why they pulled out. But we'll do it again next year because a lot of those guys, and Devin Carter, first and foremost, is the one that needs the most work. And I don't mean that from a sense of dude's got a long ways to go with his game. No, he needs the most on-court action. You got to give him a full off season that he would have had last year that he missed because of the shoulder injury and rehabbing from that. Who would you put on the team? I hear you, man. Like, who are the comebacks for the Kings that would play in the California Classic? It's an interesting thing. So, Bovada. Got it. Got Bovada. Want to talk about the finals here in a few minutes. We've also got some grievances. I have not done a grievance. I want to keep getting to your chats as well. Feel free to call the show, by the way. If you want to get in on the show, all you got to do is hit the link that is in the chat. You can scan the QR code that is usually on the screen. Yep, there it is on the screen. Thank you if you've already subscribed, by the way, to the channel. Grant's back at 8 o'clock tonight. If you haven't subscribed, we'd love to have you. We're bringing you content all through the summer. Grant and I will be getting together, hopefully, for a show sometime this week, but he'll be on at 8 o'clock tonight. Shoot us a thumbs up, shoot us a like. Really helps us out with the algorithm, and you all have put us in a great spot with a lot of those algorithms. For those that don't know, on game days, anything that is hashtag Kingsverse, whoever they're playing, we're in that. Our shows go to that, and that's because of all you. So thank you very, very much for that. Really appreciate it. Mondays, grievances. We got to get to them. I will give you my first grievance. If you're new to the show, we air our grievances on Monday. So if there's something that is bugging you, if you got a lot of problems with some of us people, now is the time to get it out.
The airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
All right. I thought this last year, at this time, we had hit the peak of professional athlete nepotism. As the NBA draft approached, all the guys, so many of the guys that were in that draft class, that were drafted in the lottery, they got about a 10th of the screen time that Bronny James did. And look at how that turned out this year. LeBron stays with the Lakers. JJ was a good coach. Good hire there. I'll give him that. I really like what JJ did up until Anthony Davis left. But the whole nepotism of the Lakers drafting Bronny, giving him a 4-year deal, I didn't have a massive problem with it. I didn't have a problem when it came to Bronny himself. Loved Bronny's story. Loved it. I don't care. I would love the story if he was Joe Schmo coming from City College. The fact that he came back from what he did with that cardiac arrest and put himself in a position to play, I'm not going to say be in the NBA. Because realistically, if your last name is James or isn't James, you would have been lucky to get signed to a G League contract, I think. Right? But I respect everything he did to get back to college basketball. Yes, he had better players on his team. Yes, he did not play the entire season. I respected that this was out of his control. What do you think Pops is going to say? Hey, Dad, I don't want to play for you, right? Come on. I would feel a little this isn't about me. This is about you. Who wouldn't? If we're being real about it, you don't get to be your own person. You're not having your own career. Everything's tied to your dad. And we went through all that, and the draft comes up, and we hear the talk that Rich Paul is telling other teams, if you draft Bronny, you know, blah, 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 LeBron will not come to you, bullying people for a second round pick. And I'm thinking, there will never be a bigger display of nepotism in any sport, probably during my lifetime. I was wrong. I was completely wrong. Shadir Sanders falls all the way to the 5th round. And you know what I liked about that? I liked it because the NFL pushed back. The NBA did not. The NFL pushed back. Executives in the NFL had to ask one question, and that question was this: is he coachable? Is he coachable? The only people you can ask that to is him, who reportedly was underprepared, didn't work out fully at the combine, didn't interview well, reportedly. You could ask his dad, who has made, although a ton of money for the University of Colorado, and this last year, more successful than his first, but you have dad who is kicking credentialed media outlets out of the building. Denver Post, you can't be here because you said something bad about us. And he's giving reporters on every press conference, it was something. Don't take it from me. Listen.
Coach, with potential rain in the forecast for Saturday.
We got rain? What
That's-
forecast you got?
Just changed this morning.
Oh, let me see. Okay, I don't have, it ain't say rain on mine. Who do you use? Straight up.
I just saw it from a local meteorologist this morning.
There you go.
A meteorologist?
I got 5169. This joker's been accurate. Anybody else got? Read yours.
Either way, let's just say there is rain on the in the
No, we're not gonna
forecast.
say there is rain. I'm one of those good weather man. When you say 60%, I say 40%.
Someone,
40% chance.
a meteorologist that I respect highly, said that there's a pretty
What
good chance
does
it
yours
rains
say?
on Saturday.
Mine says 30%.
Okay. I don't know which one I got. I need to check mine. Rain does not.
I was just going to ask if you do wet ball drills or anything different to prepare for that.
Yeah,
type
with
of environment.
rain, 30% is 30, 70% it won't.
Okay.
Excuse me. I was muted. It rained that weekend. I could play the rest of the show. I could just have Dion do the work for me the next 45 minutes. I'm not going to, but there's clip after clip after clip after clip like that, where that program was basically handed to his son offensively. Yes, offensively. Pat Shurmur was the offensive coordinator, but yeah, Sanders was calling the plays, and not Daddy Sanders. Literally calling the plays on the field. Sometimes Shurmur, sometimes we'll give him like 5 to choose from, but most of the time the play calling was in his hands. So are you going to go to Dad, who is already a loose cannon, threatens people all the time, threatens the media, and say, hey, is your son coachable? Deion Sanders wasn't really coachable per se. It's just a natural talent and a freak at that. Anybody that plays a football game and then plays in a baseball game, come on. Incredible talent. But that's what it is. It's talent. Sanders, Shadir, has the talent. I do think he can be a decent NFL quarterback, but the NFL said no, he is not coachable, and he dropped to the 5th round. Well, here we still are talking about it. I said a couple weeks ago, I have never seen a 5th round pick get so much attention like this kid has gotten. Dylan Gabriel was drafted ahead of him and is on the same roster. So it's not just about bringing him in. You're now bringing dad in. He went on a podcast, Dion, talking about the situation still, saying he was quote unquote hurt. Colorado coach Deion Sanders said he was hurt by the narratives criticizing his son's approach to the NFL draft process and urged naysayers to quote unquote stop lying. Shedeur entered the 2025 NFL draft widely regarded as a top 2 quarterback. Dropped all the way to number 44. Quote from dad, there was some foolish stuff that went on, but you know what? That gave them something that they needed. Deion said on an episode of the quote, Say What Needs to Be Said podcast hosted by former NFL cornerback Asante Samuel, quote, that edge that Tom Brady, this kid's comparing himself to Tom Brady now. Deion, you're comparing your son to Tom Brady. Wasn't Tom like the 7th pick or 7th round? Isn't he by many considered the GOAT right now? But you're like Tom. The edge that Tom Brady, that you have to. It gave them that edge that I have. Folks said we weren't going to be nothing. We have to prove that. That gave them the edge that they needed. Both of them, Deion said. He goes on and just continues to rant. You're not going to catch in no foolery, no mess. You're not going to do that whatsoever, Deion said. So when you sit up there and say something like he went in a meeting unprepared, like, dude, Shedeur Sanders, who's had 6 different coordinators, who has still functioned and leveled up every time we brought somebody new in, you're going to tell me he had on a headphone? He had a headphones? I don't know what that means. Oh, they're accusing him of wearing headphones. Anybody who knows my son understands he's a professional. He's going into a meeting with headphones on. Come on, man. Well, coach, you went into a game with sunglasses on that you started selling when your program was at its most viral moment. So it's not a big jump that son might be doing that. Guess what I'm saying here is I don't think Bronny was on board with what he had to deal with. I think Bronny wanted to be judged on his own basketball merits, but he understood that was the way he was getting into the NBA. These two are the complete opposite. Sanders and Bronny. Sanders is on that same page. Son and dad are just as, they're a nightmare to deal with. The scary thing is the talent is there. I do think he's probably the most talented quarterback on that roster right now. But the fact that this keeps going and we're not even through OTAs, just wait until we get to the season. Let's bring Dirk into the show. What's up, Dirk?
Hey, Rhino. With Kings talk, sorry, I'm a little
all
out
good.
of the loop. Cool. So a couple of Kings reporters, Sean Cunningham and James Ham, towards the end of the season in a podcast indicated that there's more stories to come, if you will, about the Kings' dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying at the time that it's as soon as the Kings stopped playing regular season basketball, those stories were going to come out. I pressed them a little bit because it's been 4 to 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
Like, hey, when are these stories coming? And they're saying, well, we still have playoff basketball, so let's wait till that ends. And they threw out, and it's gonna make you angry. So I want to speculate with you about what could you possibly hear about this organization it's still left to make you even angrier about the way they operate.
I don't know, man. It's a great question, Dirk.
It's like we're gonna trade. I'm speculating like Indiana was gonna trade Nemhart to us for Fox instead of Hallie or something, and then for some silly reason they didn't acquire the guy from Toronto who's now killing it with Indiana, but Siakam. I don't know why I'm blanking. Anyway,
Pascal, yeah.
So I just can't imagine what else they could have done that would have been even more dysfunctional.
I think it's going to be directed a lot more at the dynamics on decision making. That would be my guess, and involvement, and maybe a couple of decisions that could have ended up. You could have had certain players in Sacramento, but they were vetoed. I think you're probably going to hear some stuff in that neighborhood. Certainly some coaching staff stuff. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they know something we don't know. They're credentialed. They probably should know stuff that we don't know. But yeah, in terms of what's going to make me more mad, probably I'll tell you what ticked me off personally.
Sure.
It was in Stockton when the Stockton Kings were in their playoff run. Angeli showed up for a game, and I don't have a problem with that. I think that was fine. She showed up with her dad the season before for the Western Conference Finals. But a lot of people in the organization were going up, and I was kind of monitoring it. Her and I made eye contact. I've met her before. It's not like we're on a first name basis, but we recognize each other. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of people from the organization going up to her right now, because if you remember, she came in as part of the GM office, then became the GM, then that bad situation that I don't want to rehash that has to deal with criminals that were on the team happened, and she stepped away. Gabriel Harris, who was in the office with her, took over the role and then got promoted to full-time GM. Kings win the championship this year. But I'm looking at that dynamic and I'm like, that's just kind of weird. And then after the Stockton Kings won the championship, Vivek on Instagram thanked Angeli for putting that in motion. So anything along the lines of her being involved in basketball decisions, which Sam Amick had the balls, quite frankly, to put pen to paper and say it. Anything showing that that's continuing, that there's more influence, that to me would probably, as a fan, if I put myself in the fan shoes, that would worry me more than anything.
I suppose I don't know if it could get worse than Vivek. I mean, if he's not influencing decisions and she is, I don't attribute credit much to her involved in the Stockton Kings. Honestly, I look at the Stockton Kings as more of a mill to get NBA players, and that's the extent I really want to pay attention to it. If I didn't watch any of the Stockton Kings games, and there's some guys like Mason who, for whatever reason, I know you're high on him, but yet I've not seen a game where he in the NBA where he produces. So I'm curious if, is it worthwhile to have guys like Scala Bissiere on that team when they can never produce anything in the NBA level for a team that's trying to win? But yeah, I assume it has to be related to Angeli, and I think it's a foregone conclusion like that. They're going to keep this team in the family, but can it actually end up, with any sort of success whatsoever? I don't know. The personalities seem a little bit strange to take credit for things they don't necessarily do, or not attributing credit to the people who truly deserve it. But
yeah, I mean, to not even mention Gabriel Harris in that post too, who worked with her, I believe, at that time or at some capacity during her time there, who was the GM when they won the championship and hired Q after the coach of the year left. And to your point about Scal and those types of guys down there. This is why, to me, and I think we're going to see this continue to play out through this CBA, the premium on drafting well and developing well, even if that's scouting guys that don't get drafted and getting them into a very strong developmental system that doesn't get them ready to step in the NBA and be a star, but gets them ready to be able to come onto the floor and play a couple of minutes, maybe start working themselves into a role with a team, to where, and Keon Ellis is the outlier. You're probably never going to have, or not for a very long time, going to have another Keon Ellis story like that. But the premium's there because of the smaller pay scale and the guaranteed contracts. And so having a Scal down there that is not coming back to the NBA, he's down there because, and that's why it was a big deal when he came back up. That was a respect nod to him for how much he had done down in Stockton, being that rock, the guy that had been there, kind of put those guys through the motion and not rolling the ball out and saying, hey, go score 50. They're replicating the looks that those guys would get within the context of a Sacramento team. So to your point with Mason Jones, yeah, you don't see him come up and score 40 or 50 points because the Sacramento Kings don't need him to score 50 points. And there's a massive difference between the G League and the NBA, nor do I think he could score 50 consistently for a team throughout a season. But at least developing guys. And I think that is why having that strong base where you're running a system similar to what the parent team is running, Stockton does all that. So from that aspect, that's why I was kind of excited if the Kings did a rebuild, because they would have picks to work with. You can send them, as we saw with Devin Carter when he was struggling, send him to Stockton for a couple of weeks, which I called for a week or two before the Kings did that. And he came back and played better. So that's why I'm high on Stockton in the system.
You need it for sure. There's that option to put young guys down just to give them even confidence. Because Devin Carter was putting up big numbers, right, in the G League.
Yeah,
which was...
And the edict to Devin was, Doug literally said, I need you to go down and run a team. That's what I need you to do. It wasn't, I need you to go score 50 points, get your shot back. I need you to run a team. So to be able to get those reps at a little bit, well, it is a lower level. It's a slower game, smaller guys, but still very athletic.
I'd say the only story that would really bother me is if there was some other trade on the table for Fox that wasn't Zach LaVine, but and watch it make perfect sense and be a good deal. But we went with Zach LaVine anyway.
That just harpooned that literally harpooned Monty McNair's tenure. Everything Monty McNair's front office was about, where it's keeping contracts reasonable, fluid, you're able, if something's not working, you have assets that you can trade and flip stuff. Getting that LaVine contract literally took away the one thing that we had at that time guaranteed to us, that if this team doesn't work, you can do a rebuild. You can't do it with Zach LaVine's contract.
He was, I think Monty was out the door by the time that deal happened, when things fell apart. But there was, looking back in hindsight after the 22-23 year, the lack of getting size. And I'm not saying it's easy, but that's what you pay, Monty for, is to go out and get those guys that could provide what Sabonis can't provide. At the time it was shooting, size, and length, yet we couldn't acquire anybody that could contribute in that way. I think that was the downfall. Certainly, I think Monty's tenure was ready to be done. And that Kevin Huerter deal, despite its early productivity, the fact wanting this flexibility when there was no way for us to have our pick or, get it to convey sooner, right? So we actually had the opportunity to trade future picks. That hamstrung us more than a straight up deal. So in hindsight, that one I think was a little foolish. But I did have one other thing I wanted to put past you. I don't want to take up your whole show, but
how much, really quick, can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
I know them, or I know Sean. I don't listen to anybody else's content here locally, unless it's Jason and Dave when they have Sam Amick on. So how much of a topic is this right now?
I'm the only one really bringing it up, honestly, because it's been on my radar. Because I I just need that last motivation to start developing anti-Vivek merch, just to some way publicly shame this person who might be having a huge negative, impact on what we're trying to accomplish. All kidding aside, it's just, I don't know, this year more than ever, I've just been fascinated. I'm starting to think like there's so many idiots that run things sometimes, and that really surprised me. I was surprised that, we can't make it work. So, one thing if the next 2 years, based on what I saw from Zach, I'm not expecting Zach LaVine to get any better. So I feel like this team is not going to win in the next 2 years. But one thing that entices me is maybe having Russell Westbrook being our starting point guard. And there's a lot of people who don't seem so keen on that. And I was curious your opinion on if you put Russell Westbrook as your starting point guard on the team next year, what would your thoughts be on that team?
Serviceable. I don't hate it. But I think there would be a little bit more of a focus on, not like the game plan shifts on Russ, but there's more focus on other guys when he's on the court in Denver than him, which opens him up as like the third, fourth guy. I think the problem with that is it's a short-term solution, and it's a guy you would likely have to overpay for or guarantee a couple, an extra year with a player option to get him to come here. Like Sacramento kind of is that last resort, but from a fit, if he played like he was in Denver, I wouldn't hate it at all.
Yeah, and it's sort of based on that. Well, he's only paid $3.5 million right now, right? Let's say his stock rose. I mean, Kings could probably afford to pay him like $10 million a year if they felt like it. They're not going to be competing with anyone else. And he seems to have a bit of an ego, and he might have this desire to be in that starting point guard role with a little chip on his shoulder. He's been sort of attributed some of the fault of this team this year, but he was getting star treatment, whatever that means, to Mike Malone, which caused some problems in the locker room.
Right.
And maybe even Aaron Gordon had some issues with Russell Westbrook. I think I read something about that. My thought was like, this team's kind of a bunch of knuckleheads when it comes to decision making. He would certainly shore up the point guard role. He would miss some shots, but Sabonis is good, well equipped to get rebounds. And he doesn't seem a guy who's selfish. Like, he's willing to distribute the ball. I think if you could get maybe Zach LaVine just to hang out in corners in the 3-point line, you might see the best version of a role player out of him.
I'm
barring no other real options at the point guard position that are going to maximize anything. I think that's probably the best version of this team.
Well, I'm glad you reminded me of the off the court dynamic, because that's absolutely the last thing this team needs right now is somebody to cause more issues. I guess the other thing is the pick and roll. The reason he goes to Denver for $3 million is to be playing on a competitive team. If he went to Charlotte, if he went to San Antonio, or not San Antonio, another bottom of the tier, New Orleans. If he went there, he would have been more than $3 million. He took that break. The pick and
remember,
roll,
he wasn't making much with the Clippers either. He was making $2 million.
But it's the Clippers, and with the new CBA, that's why the reason he was able to take those contracts is because they were, well, not this last one, but the Clippers one was because of the old CBA, because it was a buyout and he got on with a veteran minimum. So, yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but I also don't want him to. The way I look at the next couple of years, Dirk, and as much as the bad LaVine contract, the uncertainty about, is he going to be able to stay healthy? Is he going to play better? What I'm more worried about in some ways is you have critical decisions with critical pieces. Like, if I lay out the Kings roster right now and I say, you're a universal piece, meaning you could go play with any of the 30 teams in the NBA and fit in immediately. You have two guys right now that are kind of at that crux. They're at that edge where you need to know what they can do. Like, this is the time you need to know what they can do. Keegan Murray, we know what he's going to do defensively. Offensively, we have no clue. He's
Right.
been the first option for maybe 3 plays in a row, right? Or the game against Utah when he scored, what was it, 50
47 or whatever.
47. Outside of that, you don't know what he's going to be. I need to see some type of feature on him so we can make that, not we, but the team can judge what he can do, because I don't think we have a full version of what Keegan Murray can do. And the same things with Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis on ESPN right now is a top 10 free agent. And the Kings they can pick up the player option, but it hurts them on the back end. If they pick up the option, I think it limits. I don't think he can be a restricted free agent if they pick up. He's an unrestricted free agent. So I don't need a lot to take away attention from those two. And those two are kind of your only universals right now.
Yeah, and I think them being your universals, it's a clue that it's time to reset, honestly. And those are the trade assets. You need to get the additional picks in the future that would give you a chance to grow, like give you an advantage, let you start molding what this team would look like. And I mean, Keegan hasn't shown us enough offensively to really commit anything there. So I'm sort of coming to terms with that the best, and this doesn't mean this is what the Kings will do, because they never do the right thing. But in my eyes, if you can get first round picks for those guys, that might be the best action to take. Because this team isn't gonna go anywhere. And even if they are, like, I don't want to win in a Zach LaVine brand of basketball where you just turn the ball over a million times and you shoot lights out. You shoot 80% every so often, and that produces a win. It's just not fun basketball to watch.
No.
And I can't imagine the team enjoys playing with these guys when they make foolish mistakes and just shoot themselves in the foot. That just defeats the morale across the team, especially when you're looking at how good the Pacers play. I'm just so pumped for Halliburton, man.
For sure. 100%. These two teams are the two deepest teams that came together the right way. This is how teams are supposed to come together. Go look at the last 20 NBA finals, and you'll pick out a handful of teams that came together through draft, through an actual build, right? And then you get free agents that want to come there, and you end up where you're at now. And that's where the Pacers are at. Guys wanted to play with Halliburton, and that is exactly what OKC did, seeing something in SGA, who ended up turning into a massive star. So I'm happy for them too. I just don't know if I'm ready to part for the future for Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis, because there's an argument to be made. You bring Jake LaRavia back, right? And I think, and I've gone into my pitch on why I think it's best for the team and best for Jake to come back here. You bring Jake back, you have Keegan, you have Keon. Let's say Devin continues to develop a little bit better. You have a 4-man lineup right there that can guard pretty much 1 through 3, 1 through 4. And Keegan Murray can guard 1 through 5. So now and they're not going to be your starting unit, but we see how the Kings can
But that's a hell of a come in, and I loved that Jake LaRavia minutes with Keegan and then one of the guards. That was a great lineup.
And so I guess what I'm saying is, while offensively, this is a mess. This is not like we got down on Herter because he wasn't making threes. We got down on Keegan because he wasn't making threes. Hell, Zach freaking LaVine came to this team and he couldn't make threes. So at what point do we say it's a system problem and not a player problem? Your system was destroying three-point shooters. Period. End of story. They could not get looks. You could not get them good looks. You're dribbling the ball off your foot. But then on the flip side, you have, if you start with defense, which both of these two teams, obviously Oklahoma City, much better defensively, but I would say that Indy is actually pretty good. Both switch 1 through 5. And when I look at what's on this roster, you have a few ingredients defensively that can play that style that you're talking about, where it's the style that I think Sacramento Kings fans want. And so if you can hunker down get through these 2 years with LaVine. Who knows? Maybe he can play his contract into an asset because he stays on the floor. He scores well. You can flip him. Maybe you're not that far off. And yes, I'm putting purple glasses on to say that, but that's why the guys that can guard multiple positions, the value is through the roof on them, no matter what they do offensively. And you've got a couple.
You know, you have to, if we're saying the system doesn't get open shots, the system is Sabonis, you know? So
the Kings failed Domantas Sabonis. I did it. I talked about it last week when everybody's like, what do you think went wrong? I think what went wrong is we've seen this obsession with the Kings drafting guys that aren't point guards, but aren't two guards. They're right smack in the middle. I think when they brought Sabonis and Fox together, the thought was we are going to have a two-headed point guard monster that you are going to have to play different ways, where you've got Fox with the speed and you've got Sabonis as a big man that can play out there and dish and do the DHO. Well, guess what? One side, they got off balance. Everything was DHO through Sabonis because Fox didn't want to go to the damn hole. So now you have no point guards. You got a point guard that turned into a shooting guard, and everybody is guarding Sabonis impossible. Like, for him to really combat, for him to get good looks or get other guys looks. So you have failed Domantas Sabonis, and you've probably heard his stock, Dirk, because the Kings wanted to treat him like he was Jokic. And you have clearly shown, although Sabonis is a special freaking talent that brings it every night, a walking double-double, some nights a triple-double, he is not Jokic. He's not. The Kings have shoved that in everybody in the NBA's face.
Well, you didn't get your Jokic, your Aaron Gordon. Right. So does Sabonis in the DHO look different if there's a lob threat? Like, the Kings don't cut, and there's no cutting action to anybody get the ball in the lane. So would that open something up?
Who's throwing the lob? That's
well, it'd have to
problem.
be maybe Sabonis, or maybe you could run some action to get a distributor to throw the lob. But
it's the distributor problem. This team, that's why Domas.
The biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
I heard it, and I agree with it that we need a point guard. But I remember us running some actions for Keegan last year, and even early this preseason, to try to get him some alley-oops, like get him to dunk at the rim. Mm-hmm. Why did that go away entirely? That's one thing I've lost. Maybe it's not Keegan, but they needed somebody to do that. And this team, if had that option, I think we'd have more offensive, approaches. So
yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. That's why. Cool. Well, I'll talk about it more in a sec. Dude, good call. Appreciate you, Dirk.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Yep. Jerry Reynolds and I talked about this on Tuesday because Davion Mitchell came up, and Davion leaves Sacramento, goes to Toronto, outplays De'Aaron Fox in both meetings, although they split the series. Gets traded to Miami, plays really good, actually, in Miami. And now you're looking at the free agents this year at point guard, and Davion Mitchell is up there. And somebody asked the question, would you bring Davion Mitchell back to Sacramento? And the one thing that we both went back to, Jerry and I, was structure. There's no structure. Hell, your head coach says, I would rather teach you how to play than teach you a play, which I don't completely disagree with in theory if you have the right group. This ain't that group. Davion Mitchell partially struggled here because you didn't give him a long runway. He only got these tiny little spurts of minutes. But he also, when you drafted him, you knew damn well he came from a structured offense at Baylor. You know who else came from a structured offense at Iowa? Keegan Murray. Throw his rookie year out the window. And I mean that with no disrespect. He holds the rookie record for made three-pointers. But let's look reality right in the eye. Most of those threes were spot-ups in the corner. Those were sniper hits. The shortest three on the floor, and I am not trying. Please know that, Keegan, if this gets back to you, my man, I am not undercutting what you are doing. I am just trying to set the context. There was not really much ran for Keegan his rookie year. But there was a structured spot for him in the corner a lot of times because nobody could guard the DHO. And Keegan, at that point, you didn't know if he was or wasn't a lob threat as a rookie. Come to year 2, whenever the Kings threw structure in, it looked good. But then the Kings never adjusted the structure. They didn't. Teams rolled in from the playoff series, 22-23, where the Kings lost in 7. Teams rolled into Sacramento the next year playing the exact same defensive game plan on Domas. And the system didn't adjust. That's why it looks so dramatically different when Malik Monk and Domas played together, because of the pick and roll. Something that Fox and Domas don't do well together. But there's a good chemistry there with Monk because he's more of a playmaker. So if I'm Domantas Sabonis, I'm pissed too. Adjust what we're doing. Give me a point guard. This is supposed to be a dual attack. Did the Kings adjust last year? No, they just brought in DeMar DeRozan and made the offense more complicated. So again, we heard in training camp, like, oh, are you going to be able to stop the DHO with DeRozan and Sabonis? I don't know. It might be unstoppable, right? What did the Kings ask Sabonis to do? Be able to shoot the 3-ball. What did he do? Shot the 3-ball pretty well. Second or third best on the team. He's held up his end of the bargain. It's no secret that he was not always on the same page with Mike Brown. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. It's no secret a couple of the guys weren't on the same page as Mike Brown. But you know when this team took a turn around the corner this year, or at least we thought they did? It's when they started Malik Monk, and I was against that unless the offense changed, and it did. They went to a pick-and-roll offense with a little bit of DHO mixed in. And it looked more balanced. This team started winning basketball games. Doug's going to have to find that happy middle because as much as we want this to be the old style Kings where it's free-flowing, you can't do it with this group. You just can't do it. Zach LaVine ain't that guy. To a degree, Domantas Sabonis ain't that guy. You do not want Domantas Sabonis posting up. How many turnovers did we see this year? Second half of the season. Trying to force the ball down low to him. The best Kings we have seen outside of the Beam Team year has been when the Kings have played more structure, when Mike Brown was calling plays. Soon as the keys got handed over to the players, it changed. And now that put Mike Brown in a weird position, right? Because he gets contract extension. I'm going to dig my heels in. You're going to listen to what I say. Nope, we're going to do this. I'd be frustrated too if I'm Domas. But the one thing that you cannot say or you cannot get on Domas about is the fact that Domantas Sabonis, he's been screaming it from the rooftops. Grant and I have been screaming it since the Beam Team year. As soon as you saw De'Aaron Fox start taking a step back and deciding longevity was more important, progressive. Not everybody is going to be a great defender. But again, the Kings have not given him, understand, just like we talked about with Vivek and strengths and strength finders, defense isn't Sabonis' strength. Now, it's not because he doesn't try hard, but everything goes back to that theoretically if you want to talk about the 3-ball and why the Kings guarded it so poorly this year. It's because you have to pack the paint if you're not going to have another big man in with Sabonis. So, and then you have Valanciunas on the bench, barely playing at the end of the year, where you could have played a double big. So, do you see where there's these conflicts? Sabonis loves Doug. It's his player development guy. They work hand in hand during his time here in Sacramento. But you got to remember, Doug Christie, to a degree, if we're going to be real about it, there's a reason Doug went from 4th to 1st seed. There's a reason Doug left the TV booth and became a coach. He's had a very strong relationship with Vivek and that family. So you could argue probably the biggest conduit on the bench directly to the owner. So it's just one of those situations. And I think Doug's the right coach, actually, for this team if you do it the right way, if you focus on the defense. So I guess what I'm saying is if you throw Keegan Murray's rookie year out, I put him exactly in the same mix as I do every other three-point shooter the Kings have ruined during that time. Every single other. Plus, playing basketball where you're not touching the ball, it's not exactly easy at times. Rhino, knowing what you know, would you have rather never traded for Sabonis and kept Halliburton? Perhaps we could have traded Fox for somebody else and paired them with Halliburton. Yeah, no doubt about it. Absolutely. I think both teams, that you gotta. The way I look at this is I don't think Sabonis failed the Kings. You still got a multiple-time All-Star back that really is the one that put this thing over the edge, and it really was him in many ways that put this thing over the edge to where the Kings break the playoff drought. So you still got something in it, but what you got is somebody, which Grant says, and I do agree with him here, Tyreek is just a special player. He's a guy that makes everybody better. He's a guy that guys want to play with. He's not as much of a special talent. He's a special player, and I agree with that. I think Sabonis is a very talented player. He's got the craziest work ethic that I've seen. But you can't build. It's very difficult to build around a guy like that, especially when you've gone about it in all the wrong ways. You all mentioned length and size. We're heavy on the point guard. You've gone about it in the wrong ways. In some respects, Grant and I had this discussion last week. In some respects, with Tyrese Halliburton, I do not think the Kings would be in the Eastern Conference Finals. You can't say if we wouldn't have made that trade, we'd be in the Eastern Conference Finals. See, it doesn't change the management. It doesn't change any of that stuff around it. But here's what it does. If Tyrese is putting you in a place where it looks like guys are having fun and it's a good style of basketball and you're having success, it almost forces the owner's hand to start pushing more into the table and investing more in that team, in that guy. So yeah, I don't want to say that I undervalue Sabonis whatsoever, but if you went back today, yes, you would rather have Halliburton. Would you guys say that Indiana's window is just really starting to open? Now, granted, it's Indiana in its current form. They have built that thing so well. Every guy is a star in their role. They're deep. But if you were to throw a Giannis in Indiana and you had to get rid of half of that bench, that's not the same Indiana. That's a different team with Tyrese. So a lot of it speaks to how good that team is built and how it's all come together at the right time. Face it, these are two teams, and this was kind of what I was picking at, and I'm going to get to your comments here in a second. These are two teams that the NBA, This is what the CBA was targeted at, right? This is what you wanted. You wanted small markets to have the opportunity to be competitive. It just so happens these two small markets did it before the CBA was enacted because they're already there. Their builds didn't start at the start of this season. They were polishing things up this year. And well, not so much Indiana, but the Thunder, what they still have to play with is scary. And Peter's brought this up a few times. They're not going to be able to keep all those parts. They're going to have to break some stuff up, but they have a ton of picks. You've got Nikola Topic, who is a lottery pick at point guard this year. He had a partially torn ACL that occurred during the draft process. He sat out this year. You still got that guy coming back in OKC. But I guess what I'm getting at is, here, Adam, this is what the future is probably going to look like in the NBA. You're going to see a different champion. And I know we've seen that for the most part over the last 10, 15 years or last 7 years, but you're going to start seeing different teams in the finals each and every single year. You are. Now, are they going to be New York? Are you going to get lucky? Is it going to be LA? Maybe, but you're not going to be able. Boston's going to have to disassemble to a degree. That's why there's so much interest in Drew Holiday. You're going to continue to see a little bit of this wave, and you're going to see teams push all in. They're going to gamble. That's why Shams said he thinks it's going to be the craziest free agency period in the history of the NBA. I don't disagree with him. I think it's just going to keep going and going and going. But here's where I'm at. And this is why I'm really confused. This is the exact type of basketball that everybody that hates the three-point game wanted. This is it. You've got a defensive team that doesn't settle for a ton of threes, that's led by the MVP, who gets to the hoop, who utilizes the mid-range, against another team that's just a balanced wave of offense and transition and pace that keeps coming at you, that don't give up. This is exactly what the NBA wanted. And all the talk right now, and I can't wrap my arms around it, is about, oh, well, you know, these guys, Foul Merchant, SGA, trying to get calls, small markets, the ratings aren't going to be there. What do you want as an NBA consumer? You, in my opinion, through this entire playoffs, you have the two best teams. These are truly the two best teams in the NBA that have come together the right way and built it the right way. This should be a spectacular finals. And the NBA isn't ready. They're not prepared for it. They're biting their nails. We don't have that big city. What are we going to do? Adam Silver right now is freaking blinded. And some of these fans are blinded too. That this is everything you've asked for about not just laying back and shooting threes. This is fun. Like, this is a great matchup. And a lot of the books have it as a lopsided matchup. But, like, look back through the last few years. Boston, I wouldn't say that team came together naturally. I guess maybe you can make an argument for Boston to a degree. Denver, Miami, they were pretty young there. So Golden State, Boston, Golden State until Kevin Durant went there. But the list of the teams that the players decided, hey, we're going to come together and we're going to make a run at this, that's no more, y'all. So I'm really excited about these finals. I'm also really confused. What do you want? Do you want the super teams that just sit back and shoot threes? Do you want the same team in the finals every single year? I mean, the NBA and the players came to an agreement on a collective bargaining agreement to put something in place that makes the playing field just a little bit evener for the small markets. I don't know that you're going to have a better series on paper for the rest of the CBA than this series right here. So I'm excited about it. I don't know, and I get Kings fans are bent because some Kings fans are bent for Hall or that Hallie's there. But this would not be the Kings. I can almost assure you, if Halliburton stays, this probably is not the Kings in the NBA Finals because you are still dealing with all the other stuff. All the other stuff. They might be in a better spot. I think that's the conversation. That's the more reasonable conversation. If Tyrese Halliburton would have stayed on the Kings and the Kings don't acquire Domantas Sabonis, would the Kings be in a better situation than they are today? And if you're going to have that conversation, you have to qualify it with this. You can't blame Domantas Sabonis. You can't do it. It's not fair. Guys left it all on the floor for this city and wanted to stay and be in this city. Blasphemy, somebody says to Paul's comment. Tyrese could win the finals this year, and Fox could be in the finals next year. Look, Paul, I actually am in the camp that San Antonio, they have very little skin in the game with De'Aaron Fox. They gave up second-round picks, basically, to get De'Aaron Fox. If San Antonio continues to improve, which means that first-round pick is not going to be very good in 2027 or 2028, whenever it's at. I don't know that the Spurs see things the same with Foxy. I think that is one of the more interesting stories to cover because now the Spurs, you have 2 picks in the top 14. You have the reigning rookie of the year. You got Wemby. You're lined up very well to get Giannis if he wanted to come there. I don't know that the Spurs are going to go all in on Fox. And here's the other thing. Fox ain't going to want to start this season without a contract extension. What if that happens? I think, depending on what happens in free agency, I think watching De'Aaron Fox and his destination is going to be extremely interesting. I just don't think San Antonio sees it like it was low risk. They weren't looking to make a move. That move, you really did. You put De'Aaron Fox on a silver platter to San Antonio to try out. That's what you did. Now, who knows what the commitments are behind the scenes and what they've talked about. You put him on a freaking platter to San Antonio. I don't know many teams that wouldn't have taken that deal. It's so low risk. So I just don't think if you re-sign Fox, it's not going to be nearly in San Antonio, not going to be nearly the number that he left on the table here in Sacramento. I would be shocked. I could be wrong. I would be shocked. Yeah, you're not keeping Fox if you get Giannis. But then if you're the Bucks, if you're trying to rebuild, I mean, I guess you want the expiring deal, but you want to take on $36 million for a year. Spurs have had the last 2 rookies of the year and haven't come close to making the playoffs. Well, they have also had some guys miss a lot of time. So you got to think about that. And there's a reason they've had the last 2 rookies of the year. They have picked high in the last 2 drafts. They've not been a good team. These 2 teams play tough. I agree. Glad to see 2 smaller markets make it to the NBA Finals. If I'm the NBA, I guess that's what my point is. When I turn on the radio, and what I listen to is very minimal, but the people that I've listened to, the people I've talked to, the conversations that I've been told about are all like concerns and negatives over this series. The NBA is set up for another 6 years of matchups like this. outside of crazy trades, crazy and frequent trades. Embrace it. Put this on a platter. This could be one of the better NBA finals. If this is a spectacular series, this is what kind of reintroduces the NBA viewer that turned off the TV after the last 2 All-Star games, because it's a completely different style of basketball. So look at the positives of it. I'm so sick of hearing the negatives about it. It's crazy. Super nuts. Am I the only one that feels like that? When you do win that chip, when you worry guys leaving and getting paid so windows can shut quick. Yes, they can. They can also open quickly as well. You got to think about that. I think New York is a very interesting place. I something tells me Fox would fit good with Brunson. Fox had to take a pay cut. Agree, Sabonis is a stud, but I just wonder if he's as big of a look. Okay, okay. Here we go. If you're willing, and we're going to end here, so we got to get out. If you're willing to trade Tyrese Halliburton away, who thought he was going to be the MVP of the East Finals, we played that earlier. He's taken a step forward. No, it's Pascal. Anyways, if you trade away Tyrese freaking Halliburton, and you didn't know he was going to be this, but you knew he was going to be good. You spent some time around him. You knew he's one of those guys where he's a Mason Jones personality that's infectious, right? You trade that away for Sabonis. What have you done to build around Sabonis? Have you done Sabonis any favors? You brought him a good point guard, solid at the pick and roll, good playmaker that takes that obligation off of Demonis's plate all the time. I would argue, no, you have not. You've not done Domas any favors. And the Kings, outside of Valanciunas coming, and you couldn't figure out a way to work them together. So what makes you believe if the Kings kept Halliburton that the Kings were going to do him any favors? I don't usually side with the players when it comes to these, hey, I want to, and Domas clearly said it. He thinks he should be included in some of these conversations. I don't, with the ownership, management, etc., to a degree, because it's the norm now in the NBA if you're that guy on a team. But I agree with Domas. I need to know what the future looks like. I need to know that from this point forward, you're going to value me. I think it's fair. There's the other side that, no, you're a player. You signed your name to the contract. You fulfill your contract. I'm not there with Domas. That guy's left it all on the court here in Sacramento. He has tried to find every single way to get better when they ask him to in certain areas. Hell, he's a private dude. He did the starting 5, right? Like, he's done everything asked of him. They didn't do him any favors. I think they've hurt his stock to a degree. And now he, as well as the rest of the Kings, are in this position. And I just think it's interesting. What makes you think the Kings would have taken care of Hallie? Because they sure as hell haven't taken care of Sabonis. And they traded Sabonis for Hallie. I think it's an interesting conversation. Grant, he's back 8:00 tonight. Make sure you go come support Grant. Need to get back on a show with him here in a little bit. We'll make that happen for sure. But join him 8:00 tonight. Open forum, meaning you can call in, talk about whatever. If you want to talk about this, you want to talk about the matchup in the finals, anything that happened over the weekend. Damn, I only got to one of my grievances. Maybe we'll carry those over. If you are new around here, do not forget tomorrow is Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. Jerry joins the show every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. So we will be talking to Jerry, previewing the NBA Finals. Obviously, he is very close with that Indy organization, very close with Larry Bird, Coach Carlisle. So Jerry already said he's rooting for them. We'll get his insight on it. We'll get his insight on Hallie and maybe some of the stuff that we talked about today. I would love to talk to him about that. And the beauty of having Jerry on is you can ask Jerry. You can drive the question or the subject matter. Put your questions in the chat for Jer. Sometimes we allow phone calls. Sometimes. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. But anyways, hey, I appreciate y'all. Dirk, great call. Chat, awesome. Sorry I could not get to everything, but we will get back at it tomorrow at 3 o'clock. You can find every episode now up on the audio as well. Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find the full episode. Take us on the go if you need to. And thank you for letting me into your ears, your offices, your homes this afternoon, maybe tonight on the replay. Really means a lot. You guys are the best. You are literally the best. Very appreciative for the opportunity to kick around Kings basketball with everybody. Grant, again, 8 o'clock tonight. We'll play you out to the rest of the audio from TNT signing off the air. I thought it was awesome. Jerry Reynolds, Friday tomorrow. Go Kings, light the damn beam. What do we need?
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard, that's for sure.
And to take care of your franchise player right now. Is that too much to ask? Court's dismissed. Here's TNT.
We look forward. The four of us, as you've already heard, the four of us are going to be together. Our production crew is going to be together. It's going to be that same bunch. We're still going to be shooting that show in Atlanta. It's just going to air somewhere else. And so the craziness that you've seen, the nonsense and the foolishness and the top-notch basketball analysis, all of that stuff's going to be on. It's going to be on ESPN or ABC next year, not on TNT. For that, it's we're sad. But I'm proud to say for the last time, thanks for watching us. It's the NBA on TNT.
Before we go, guys, let's get a mic drop.